The last ship. Why the elves had to leave Middle-earth.
The air in this library grows thinner with each passing year. Can you feel it? It is not for lack of oxygen, no. It is a slow leaching of magic, a quieting of an ancient song that has been playing since the stars were first kindled. In the fourth age, the world is being remade, and in this new world there is less and less room for its firstborn children. Tonight, by the light of this single guttering candle, we delve into the most poignant of all our chronicles. Not a story of a battle, but of a departure. The long, slow farewell of the elves.
The question is simple, yet its answer echoes through the very foundations of our world. Why? Why did the Eldar, the people of the stars, who loved Middle-earth with a passion that forged kingdoms and sustained ages of beauty, finally turned their backs on it? The simple folk of Gondor might say, their time was over. But that is merely an observation, not an explanation. The truth, as I have pieced it together from scrolls of lore and the brittle pages of elven lament, is a tapestry woven from many threads.
The decree of Eru, the changing of the guard.
We must begin at the beginning, with Eru Iluvatar, the One. In his grand design for Arda, the world we inhabit, there was a sequence, a divine rhythm. The Firstborn, the Elves, were to be the guardians, the artists, the bringers of light and memory. But they were never meant to be its eternal masters. Their era was to be one of dawn and high noon, but not of endless day. I have here a fragment, a copy of a much older Númenórean text that speaks of this. It says, "To the Firstborn was given the grace of immortality, to walk the world until its end. But to the followers, the race of men, was given the gift of dominion and the shaping of the world's latter days." This was not a punishment. It was a passing of the torch. The elves were the steady, undying flame that preserved the light of the Elder Days. But men are the dynamic, burning spark. They build, they fall, they rise again, they change. Their mortality, that which the elves often pitied, is in fact the engine of the world's progression. The departure of the elves was, in its most fundamental sense, the fulfillment of a cosmic plan. They were not banished. They were relieved of a duty they were never meant to hold forever. The stage was being cleared for the next act of the great drama, an act in which they were not the main players.
The fading, the weight of a marred world.
But a divine plan is one thing, the lived experience of it is another. And here we come to the most profound sorrow of the elven race, the fading. You see, elves are bound to the world in a way men are not. A man's spirit, his Fea, is a visitor here. When his body fails, it departs from the circles of the world to a destiny not even the Valar fully comprehend. But an elf's spirit is tied to the world for as long as it lasts. Their bodies, their hroar, are meant to be its perfect, eternal vessels.
But something went wrong.
The marring of Arda, The great rebellion of Melkor, whom the elves call Morgoth, did not just create monsters and wars. He poured his own malevolent essence into the very matter of the world. He tainted the stone, the water, the air itself. Think of it as a magnificent tapestry into which an enemy has woven threads of rot and discord. The world itself became Arda marred.
And the elves, being so intimately woven into its fabric, feel this marring more acutely than any other race. To remain in Middle-earth is to feel one's very essence, one's physical form, slowly thin out, to become weary, not just in soul, but in body. Their light, their incredible vitality, is constantly being drained by a world that is fundamentally broken. They don't age, but they fade. Their bodies become less substantial until they are but memories, shades, unable to fully interact with the world, trapped between being and nothingness.
Imagine the agony to be immortal, yet to feel your very substance dissolving around you, like a painting left in the sun. This is the fate of every elf who remains in Middle-earth. They are not simply leaving a home they love. They are fleeing a slow spiritual consumption.
The end of magic, the failing of the rings.
And this brings us to their last desperate attempt to defy this fate, the Rings of Power. Many believe the 3 elven rings were tools of war. They were not. They were instruments of preservation. When Celebrimbor forged the 3 in secret, his dream was not dominion, but stasis. To create havens like Rivendell and Lothlorien, where time itself would flow differently, where the leaves would not wither, where the memory of the elder days would remain vivid, where the fading would be held at bay. They were beautiful, desperate lies told to reality. But they were lies bound to a greater evil. For Sauron, in forging the One Ring in the fires of Orodruin, made himself the master of all the rings. The preservation of the elven havens was, for millennia, paradoxically dependent on the power of their greatest enemy. When the One Ring was unmade, the power of the 3 faded. It did not happen in an instant, but it began immediately. Elrond knew it. Galadriel knew it.
The magic that sustained Imladris and Lorien seeped away like water from a cracked vase. The timeless spring gave way to the inevitable autumn. The leaves in Lothlorien, once golden and eternal, began to fall. The music in the halls of Rivendell grew fainter. The rings had been a dam holding back the river of time, and the dam was broken. There was no longer any refuge, any artifice that could protect them from the grinding wear of the marred world.
The vacuum of power, the danger of staying.
And there is one final reason, a darker, more political one that the scrolls only hint at. It is a reason rooted not in fate or sorrow, but in the sober lessons of history. With the final fall of Sauron, the great balancing force of darkness was removed. And what fills a vacuum of power? Other power. The elves, even the most noble among them, are not angels. They are beings of immense power, pride, and strong will. For ages, their energies were focused, rightly, on the fight against a common, overwhelming enemy. But what happens when that enemy is gone? When the Eldar, with their ancient knowledge, their potent magic, and their long memories of grievance, are left as the sole superpower in Middle-earth?
It begins, as these things always do, with good intentions. They would help men rebuild. They would teach them, guide them, share their wisdom. But as the years turned into centuries, the impatience of the immortal would inevitably clash with the fleeting, often foolish nature of mortal kings. The elves would see the mistakes, the squabbles, the short-sightedness of men, and with the best of intentions, they would begin to correct them, to guide more firmly, to insist. The gentle hand of a mentor would slowly become the firm grip of a steward, and then a ruler. They would not become Sauron. Their tyranny would be beautiful, orderly, and utterly suffocating. It would be a cage of light and reason, but a cage nonetheless. Rivendell would not be a haven, but a seat of government. Lothlorien would not be a golden wood, but a gilded prison. They had to leave, not just for their own sake, but for the sake of those who came after. Their departure was an act of humility and ultimately of grace. It was the final and perhaps greatest sacrifice of the Firstborn to relinquish a world they had the power to rule so that others could be free to make of it what they would. So you see, it was never one reason, but a symphony of causes. The will of God, the decay of the world, the failure of their last great artifice, and the sober wisdom to avoid becoming the very thing they had fought against for so long. When you see a golden autumn leaf fall, you do not ask why it abandons the tree. You understand that its time is done, that it makes way for the silent rest of winter from which new life will spring. The elves are those golden leaves. Their long autumn is over.
The final conclusion.
The ships have sailed from the gray havens. The harbors are empty. But if you listen closely, on a quiet evening when the wind carries the scent of the sea, you might still hear the echo of a song that has not entirely faded. A song of loss, yes, but also a song of acceptance. They have passed into the West, into the undying lands, not as conquerors returning in triumph, but as weary children finally going home. If you feel these stories are worth continuing, if you wish for me to keep searching these forgotten shelves, I ask of you, grant me this favor. Your likes and subscriptions are like the light of this candle in the darkness. They show me that my work is not in vain, and that there are wayfarers who wish to listen further. And now, allow me to share a small secret. The next time we meet, I will tell you a story that lurks in the shadow of this one about the elves. A story about what remained after their departure, about creatures that lingered in the gloom, and about new shadows that are growing in the light of the Fourth Age. It will be a tale that might unsettle you somewhat. Until that time, my dear friends, may the stars shine brightly upon the paths you walk. Until we meet again.